Last time on Between Two Cars.
People's teeth are getting just too white. How white is white enough? Like, good grief, titanium?
Wait, what do you want people to have wooden teeth again? Press whitening strips between.
No, I don't.
You don't know the cat backstory?
No.
Caleb,
Me too.
it is the prank of all pranks in the Hudson Automotive Group. It is the best ever, and what made it so good.
And talk about long game on that.
Oh, Adam's the best. Okay, he is the best. But he played that one well. And I would walk into Ed's office, and again, you know, I learned all those four-letter words from my dad. But he would talk about, I don't know why in the beep, 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 I'm getting these texts from such, and he's declining. I've told it no, you know, all this. He's going through his whole spiel of how he's trying to decline.
So
you know.
He's getting texted random cat facts, like reply yes for more or reply to opt out.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. And he would opt out, and then the next text was, well, congratulations, you've enrolled in. And it just kept on going. It kept on going. And then at a cigar session at one of the 20 groups, it finally comes out, okay? And it was hilarious.
Adam couldn't hold
the best.
it in.
He couldn't hold it in any longer. And he wasn't, listen, he was going to take credit for it in the end.
He wanted credit for it.
As he should have. As he should have. He absolutely should have. It was the best.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. That was
But
fun.
you know, again, what would we say? You don't work a day in your life if you enjoy what you're doing. We've enjoyed working together for so many years. Those guys do a great job. They made it a lot of fun.
So, Daniel, we want to talk a little bit about what the thing that makes you different from a lot of the other leaders inside our organization is that you've really committed to being a leader who creates other leaders. Like, you really have, you know, like you're like the Saban of the Hudson Automotive Group, right? Where you have your tree. Right? He has his coaching tree. Mm-hmm. You've got your leadership tree, but you've really been very intentional about that. And I'm just like, I just want to dig more into that because I just think it's something that in any leadership course, right? You'll say that that's the goal. That's what we want to do.
Right.
We're here to create, like, to multiply ourselves and to create more leaders. But you've actually been very intentional about that. When did that mindset start with you? Like, when did you actually, like, buy into it and start being intentional? And what did that mean? What did that look like?
So I want to say it was after we got to Johnson City Toyota. And all of a sudden we realized, hey, you've got this. We called it a platform back in those days, but it was those 4 stores. And I don't remember exactly what I heard or what leadership instructor or book or whatever that it was, but you know, just realized that, hey, you know, we had all of a sudden I was leading a lot of other leaders, and we had all of a sudden had this growth, and really. People started coming to us and saying, hey, I would love to grow. I'd like to get to do this. And around that time, I got really dialed into talking about setting goals with people and understanding what people wanted to achieve. And then just really, just like we were talking about with the kids, you know, started having intentional conversations with people about, you know, what do you really want to do? But also watching them and understanding what their strengths were, and then coaching them to maximize their potential, right? So at the end of the day, you might say, hey, I want to be a general manager, or hey, I want to get into the F&I department, or I want to be an advisor. I mean, it doesn't matter what your next goal is, right? ultimately, our responsibility as leaders is to paint that picture for you, and then help provide the tools in order for you to get there. And so I started doing a lot of one-on-one coaching.
Can I ask what that looks like? When you set up one-on-one coaching for people that you've designated, like, we're going to work together to help you get where you want to go. What is...
Well, for one thing, you have to. You can't, like, if you're running a dealership. Johnson City Toyota had 120 employees, right? So I have to focus on my direct reports first, okay, and then I need to get them on board with doing the same thing with their direct reports, and then about once a year we would, after we had gone through, we did several books. We were doing a leadership class every week, so we did the 21 laws a couple different times. And you know, listen, I like that one the best because it's the easiest for me to teach. Or I wouldn't say teach, I'd say lead, because Maxwell does all the work. Right. And then, you know, I really like Craig Groeschel. His podcast is really good, so we would do some of that. We would do some Dave Anderson, and so in that we started doing goal setting. And I asked them all, and I forget, this was probably 2015, 2016, you know, where do you want to be in 5 years? You know, that classic example of, you know, what do you want to, what are your long-term goals, basically, right? And they all submitted them to me. The amazing thing about that exercise is I think 80% of the people that did it with me still work for us.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
That's astonishing.
Yeah, two of them are GMs now. One is a GSM. The others have grown tremendously. You know, and I was, one of my good friends is in the industry, I was talking to about that time, and I just, as we started seeing people grow, I just said, this is why I'm here, you know.
Wow.
And, you know, and I think it's something that, fortunately, God's, you know, put me in the position that I'm in. Yeah. And I just ultimately want to help other people grow. I mean, I think it's, you know, so often, and especially in this transition for me, you can get sidetracked with tasks, right? Because I'm trying to learn, you know, and as faith comes to me like every other day with something new I'm supposed to do that I didn't realize was part of the deal. No, I'm just kidding. You just happen to be here, so I'm picking on
another thing.
Yeah. But you know, so I have to. But ultimately, I heard this acronym a few years ago, and it's so true. But every day, you need to stop. Right? Y'all know what this acronym means?
No, tell us more.
Spend time on people.
Yeah. I like
right.
it.
Yeah. And that's such a really, really good way to look at things. And so on my to-do list, at the top of my to-do list is stop.
At the top.
At the top, yeah. Yeah.
I am.
And so I try to be really, really intentional about having one-on-ones with my team. And that's kind of what came out of that. Yeah. And as you have those conversations, first of all, you need to ask more questions than anything to really get to know what people are thinking, what they want to accomplish. And then you have to be really transparent with them and direct about what you're actually seeing from them. And then help them grow through it, right? But also, what I would say is it really wasn't me. We were so fortunate to have so many talented people in those dealerships. And this is the thing that I think is important for people across the organization to hear. Every one of these people was on the other side of a Hudson transaction.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, seriously, a lot of them were working at dealerships that we purchased, that we then awesome. Committed to helping them grow, and they have done the work.
That's what it's all about. Is they have to be willing.
They
right?
have to be willing.
They have to be willing to do the work. It's not like no matter how many one-on-ones you have with somebody,
That's
like
right.
you can't pull them up. Like that person has to want it.
Yeah.
Can I get you to just like background a little bit, like professional background, where you started and kind of like how you ended up here. And in that, I kind of want to hear at what point in your story did you see yourself sitting in this role? Did you start to see it?
Okay. Well, so I've been in the business. It's interesting. So we got married in April of '98, and I had never thought about. I just turned 50 this year, by the way. Anyway,
you have great skin. Holy cow!
Are you
I told you,
work done? Botox?
No. I know some guys in the mafia who have gotten work done, but we'll let them disclose on their version of this podcast.
You know these forehead lines. It's so
No,
cool.
Listen. I'm blessed with great genes, as I was saying. You know, both my grandmothers lived to be 100. I don't. Yeah. So I've been blessed. But anyway, that year. My first job out of college, I worked for a logistics company, and the local car dealer, my wife and I, she was a school teacher. I ran into the local car dealer. I was getting ready. I had a finance and marketing degree. I was getting ready to go to work for a bank, and he convinced me to come see him at the local Chevrolet Oldsmobile Mazda dealership. How about that? Yeah. And he painted a picture for me of what the car business could look like. And so my first job,
basically your college degree useless.
Yeah, exactly. I learned everything after college. My first job, I was the director of customer service. Right?
Okay.
And basically, but this was a training plan that he had put me on. And the first thing I did is I wrote service during the day, and then I worked internet leads and sold. So I was kind of doing a couple different things. And in about 6 to 9 months or so, actually, after a failed, really, really bad warranty audit at the store, I took over fixed operations. So I was 23 years old. I managed in fixed operations. I'll never forget they put an alternator on the counter, and I had no idea what it was. Like, I was like, hey, what's that?
This is awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So I worked in service for the first 3 years. Ran the body shop for a little bit. Ran, fixed ops. We did really, really well. We actually split off Mazda and picked up Mitsubishi. This was a enterprising, group back in the day. And so I got to run my first dealership at the age of 26, a Mazda Mitsubishi store.
Wow.
Yeah.
26.
Yeah, and I was still running fixed ops at the original store at the time. So
while you were running Mazda Mitsubishi, you were
well,
still running
listen, it was like a 50-car store. So it was, but the thing that was cool about that, running small stores is really, really good for your learning and development, right?
Cool.
Well, because hey, the service advisor didn't show up that day. Okay, well, listen, I'm going to write service today. Okay, Mr. GM, I'm going to write service. The parts manager didn't show up. Yeah, I can bill out parts.
Wow.
And hey, sales manager's off. I'm working the desk. Okay. F&I guy's not there. Okay, I'm going to go bill out a car, try to sell a VSC. So we literally, in that dealership, what was great about that, which I ran for 4 years, I literally, depending on the day, was doing everything in the store. Okay. So then we started growing. We bought a Ford store. We bought a Toyota store. Then 2008 hit, and I thought we were going out of business. And fortunately, this guy named David Hudson came along and bought the Toyota store. So the greatest break that I ever got in my entire career was that David Hudson gave me a job when I was running a failing Toyota store. So we'll put that out there.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And we were failing because it was fortunately, but and so listen, I was on the other side of a Hudson transaction, and then I'll never forget the first meeting I had to go to. I was so paranoid, right? Because I had never been in a group like this, right? With stores in Charleston and all, we were kind of already spreading out a little bit, Gastonia, and I go to that first meeting, and Tom Downing, Jeff Viner, myself, David Hudson, Andrew Hudson. Okay.
No Brad Tyson?
No, before Brad.
Okay.
And I learned a ton from Tom. Tom's just such a good partner, and Jeff. Both of those guys were so good to me in those early years. And back then, this is hard to believe, but Nissan was on a really good run and Toyota was kind of struggling. That's right during the pedal recall and
Oh, the
how the tables have turned.
Yeah, they have turned.
Michael Scott meme.
But those guys were they've always been great leaders, but they were really good to me. I learned a lot from them. And then we were fortunate enough to get to, I was able to run that store for a couple years, and then we bought those stores in East Tennessee, and back in those days, we didn't have a acquisition team, so to speak. It was, David was handling all the OEM, legal, insurance, stuff like that. Dee Haran and myself were doing all the on the ground along with my
Caleb just met Dee.
I just met Dee.
Yeah.
Literally like 2 days ago.
Yeah. And my assistant Cindy Smith, we did all of the other stuff, and then this guy Adam comes along. Right? I mean, like, he comes in and helps with the last one. Like, hey, I'm here to help. But so Adam's been around. But we doubled the size of the group basically within 6 months, and
then that's when I joined.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I was the GM and the platform manager at that point. But at that point, I had been a GM now for 13 years or so. And continued to run stores. I think literally when we went through all that trouble in 08, 09, it's like the best thing that ever happened to me because I learned a ton. It was great for me to go, because at that point I was running multiple locations. It was great for me to go back into a store and just operate a store and really learn how to maximize a dealership, right? And again, so then I learned a ton from David and Tom and Jeff, and then the group started growing. And I think as far as getting to the point where I could see myself in this role, I think along 2018 or 2019, I just committed that I just wanted to continue to grow. I wanted to continue to help this company grow. And as long as it worked for my family and everything, that I was committed to helping the Hudson Automotive Group be successful. I'm not really a title person, so I never had the goal of, hey, I want to be the COO of the company. It was really all about, I want to continue to make the company successful.
Like, it was really fun to keep watching the
growth,
and you wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, and then I wanted to teach people, ultimately, the things that I had learned, and try to have an influence, and help them become better operators. I like to really, as you know, I focus on GM leadership a lot, and now it's great to get to work with the RODs and the corporate directors, and so ultimately, I like I said, I think for me, and I learned this in college. This is one thing I did learn in college, is that when you reach a goal, the most important thing you can do is reflect and set the next goal. Okay, so because if you don't, you get complacent, right? Like if you and so I think it's. I've learned that several times throughout my career, and running that Toyota store in Johnson City was a prime example, because we said, hey, this is a 250 car store. Well, we hit 250, and then it was like bumping our head up against the lid every month, right? Because we had kind of set the lid, and we quit. We didn't really. Then we started focusing on opportunities.
I like that, because there's a difference between being goal driven and being growth driven, right? Yeah. And you can and so if you're goal driven, right, like you do have a stopping point. Well, I've reached this goal, now I'm good, right?
Victory
but if
defeats
you're
you.
Growth driven, like how you said that, it is like, then it's now what's the next thing? Like I've gotten here, now how can I keep getting better, and how can I keep getting better? And we do have a lot of people who are goal driven. They don't necessarily understand that difference, and they're like, what do you mean? It's like when we do budgets or whatever, right? Yeah. What do you mean? Like we look pretty good. Like, look at us compared to everybody else. Like we're where we said we were going to be, right? We hit our goal. And you're like, there's more. Is this your full potential? Have you realized your full potential in everything, you know?
And so when you hit that level, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is stop, reflect, analyze the opportunities, then figure out what the next goal is.
Can you describe the way that you reflect?
Well, it is a daily thing for me. Now part of that's just because, listen, I am insanely competitive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. It's something I can't really help. At this point, I've decided that I just have to channel it in the right way. So hopefully, I've learned that. But and so usually at the end of each day, as I'm sitting there, whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm just constantly thinking about what did we accomplish, how did this meeting go? Did we really have the impact that we needed to? For example, like I've spent a lot of time reflecting on our regional training from a couple weeks ago, and how do we build on that? Because I think our role is to continue to look for opportunities to improve and to help provide the right tools for people to be able to do that. And so, when you're passionate about something, I think it's easy to do that, right? It's easy to reflect and think, how am I going to get better, right?